So imagine this. You arrive at the tavern, a pub or cafe for that matter, in a dark and dense forest. You decide to stop for a drink at this local bar. You've taken a seat on a comfy couch, and in front of you sits your trusty companion. Together you have seen it all, the highest peaks and deepest valleys. As the kind waitress arrives to serve you to both a delicious glass of beer, you're in a calm and relaxed mood. You raise the glass to the glory of loved ones now gone and take a sip. As you drink, you suddenly notice very dense and thick fog appearing all around you. It feels heavy, as if it's trying to slow you down or keep you in your place. It has somehow found a way to creep inside of the building. As you put down your glass, you start to hear voices out of nowhere. Are those children? You hear faint laughter, mournful cries, and horrific screams, which appear to get silenced real quick. Your unconscious suspicion has now transferred into very conscious fear, and you begin to feel shivers down your spine. As you look to your left, out the window, you notice dark, shadowy beings moving through the dense fog. Your fear turns into straight despair when all of a sudden something moves amongst the dense fog. Your focused eyes open up wide as from the fog a grim entity has appeared from behind a tree, or perhaps floated through a bush. You freeze in terror as staring right back at you from the misty fog, there are 3 glowing red eyes piercing straight into your soul. Irrational fear has paralyzed you when all of a sudden one of the eyes closes. The entity is shapeshifting into something beyond horrifying. You can hear the body breaking apart, joints twisting and bones straight up breaking. You blink and rub your eyes, yet the supernatural being is still very much there. Only now 2 eyes, which appear to be made out of pure fire, lurk through the forest. You hear heavy breathing, not your own, nor from your friend, but coming from the creature, which is followed by an angry and aggressive growl. The distorted beast moves suddenly and grabs one of the shadowy entities which surround it all throughout the dense fog. You stare in disbelief as it appears the creature is straight up feasting from the shadow, literally breaking it in half. You stare back at your friend. To your surprise, the waitress hasn't even left. You all stare at each other, fear written all over your faces. Yet as you do so, the fog clears up rapidly, followed by an eerie silence. You snap your attention back to the window, but there's nothing there, not even footsteps on the ground. No trace of any of this frankly absurd and bizarre paranormal event that you have just witnessed. What in the world was it? What did you witness? Well, my friend, this is the Beast of Flanders, a mythical creature haunting its forest, taking no prisoners. There can be no doubt, what you just saw was the dreaded and brutal Deogen. Now everyone, let's all dial it back to 1, because that was, for lack of better words, messed up and insane. What I've just told you is my own version of how I could possibly envision the Deogen. The Deogen is one of the most unique ghosts in the hit game Phasmophobia. It's a fan favorite amongst many, including myself. The looping capabilities the Deogen has make it fun to toy with, but only if you know what you're doing. While you know you'll be safe, hearing the Deogen approach with 3 meters per second always gets you a little bit nervous. To top it off, it has a unique and very strange spirit box response, that of course being the famous Deogen growl. One day, on a Wednesday morning, I suddenly felt the need to explore all the 24 ghost types. I also don't know why, but I guess I just did. I suppose out of curiosity, and that got the best of me. Anywho, eventually, after many stories, ranging from spooky to straight up horrifying, I reached the Deogen. When I first began my research on it, I was surprised to say the least. No Wikipedia page, huh? That was a first. I guess I'll have to go on some desolate fandom sites to find any clues of where this thing originated from. Now, to make this clear before we commence with the first story, I'm not quite sure about all of this. It's all kinda sketchy and, you can take with a grain of salt. There are 2 primary entities that seem to be related to the Deogen, and they are both quite obscure beings, with not much information or discussion about any of them being online. Nevertheless, I ask you to take a seat, light up that cozy campfire, and let us begin. first story is the one most commonly associated with the Deogen, and it's highly likely that this, or at least a version of this, is the story where the Deogen from Phasmophobia got its inspiration from. While the stories have their differences, they all originate in a forest, in Belgium, the Sonian forest near Brussels. Interestingly enough, sources cite a book which documented the origin of the Deogen. The book called De Kinderen van het Bezeten Bos, which translated into English is titled The Children of the Possessed Forest, was a book written in 1937 by Miriam Chesner. The book describes a couple of nuns which were investigating the forest and the sketchy activities that took place over there. The book claims that the bodies of over 80 different children were found. They were likely murdered, dumped into the forest and set on fire. Many different descriptions of the appearance of the Deogen are known. The earlier ones depicted as a grey, orange or white fog-like entity. Others say it's more of a greenish fog. Whatever the case is, we know for a fact there is fog and something more. While sources may differ on the looks, one thing stays consistent. Amongst the dense fog, shadowy figures can be seen, accompanied by the laughter of young children. The behavior of the Deogen is also a bit mysterious. It is said that it does more than haunting, it is also violent. One thing it does is that it often lures people away, which results in them getting lost in the forest. Other paranormal events feature the shadowy figures. They emerge from the dense fog to scare drivers cruising through the forest, which usually results in the driver losing control of their car and crashing. Other things the Deogen does is leaving behind a bloody palm print on the window of cars, which mysteriously disappears as soon as the fog does so too. The name Deogen is also pretty interesting. It can be split up into two separate words, de and ogen, which are Dutch for the words the eyes. This name has been given to the entity for the reason that victims say they feel something is watching them through the misty fog. Nowadays, the supernatural being has pretty much vanished, with no reported sightings in recent years. While this story sounds all nice and well, there are still a couple of things that aren't that great about it and things that we do not know for certain. For one, the book that documented the early origins of the Deogen has a tiny little problem. It seems to not exist at all. When searched up on Google, no book can be found, and to add a little more of a good measure, the supposed author seems to not exist as well. Very little is known about this murder case that took place in the Sonian forest, and this leads many people believing that the book and story are just entirely made up. Furthermore, we know virtually nothing about the motives of this Deogen and why it acts the way that it does. It is unclear why the Deogen has an interest for causing accidents with vehicles, nor what it actually watches from the fog. In addition, I have not found any sort of explanation of where this photograph comes from, which is often paired with the Deogen story. My reverse image search went pretty much dead from the start. Lastly, while this does give enough context to the Deogen, it still leaves us with one thing that we cannot explain, the Deogen's iconic growl. For that, we might have to look at a different Belgian myth, which seems to be related to the Deogen. Now, the second story is a bit different, but it has some striking similarities to the Deogen, and it may explain the weird growl the Deogen has in the game. This story once again originates in Belgium, this time near the town of Mechelen, north of Brussels. The creature is called Oude Rode Ogen, which translates to Old Red Eyes. Sightings go back as far as the 15th century, long before our time. Here it all began with children mysteriously disappearing and going missing. Rumor had it that they were victims of a cannibalistic shapeshifter, which sounds pretty gross. One incident described the being as a large, black humanoid creature. It ran off after it failed to kidnap a young girl from her bed. People were quick to shoot at the beast, but shortly after that, it shapeshifted into a large black dog with fiery red eyes. Not long after that, a black beggar who lived around the area was accused of child kidnapping and child murder, and was executed without trial, with him being skinned alive and the skin being buried at a local cathedral. As soon as the 17th century, people made sightings of a large demonic dog roaming around in the forests. The dog was completely black and still had those creepy red eyes. It is said that the beast now roams around in Flanders, looking for its skin to become the demonic figure it once was. It has therefore received the appropriate nickname, the Beast of Flanders. This beast, however, can also transform into a dark, shadowy, ghost-like entity. The beast might have lost his skin, but it still has some strong powers, as it's able to take away people's ability to hear, see and speak. Nowadays, it's a children's fairy tale parents use to scare kids who stay up past their bedtime. Now you might be wondering, what in the world does this bad-tempered dark dog, which literally eats children for breakfast, have to do with the Deogen? Well, for starters, their names are quite similar, and both creatures have a strong emphasis on their eyes. In addition, both entities hang out about inside Flanders, which could also connect the two. Yet when it comes to the Phasmophobia Deogen, the growl is the biggest connection point. The original Deogen never had a voice, apart from the people who saw it claiming they heard the children's laughter. Whereas the people who are visited by the old red eyes claim to hear heavy breathing and, more importantly, an angry growl coming from a dog. This could be the explanation behind the Deogen's growl, but that's just my theory. A game theory. So, all in all, the Deogen has not only dense fog, but also some pretty shady and creepy lore surrounding it. The mysterious origins, as well as the possible connection to the old red eyes creature, make it very intriguing and kinda spooky. Both of these creatures are not pleasant, to say the least, and safe to say that it's probably for the best that they are not roaming out there. Nevertheless, both of these myths live on today through our beloved ghost hunting game that we call Phasmophobia. So next time, when you're oh so cleverly hidden and watching doom approach, or looping a Dio around the table or campfire, just remember that...
But it was I, Dio!
No, not that, but you can remember the incredible strange and horrific origins of your favorite ghost type. And I believe I'm sort of supposed to do an outro right now, so I guess I'll thank you all very much for watching. Yada yada yada. I hope you all appreciated and enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to subscribe, like and share it, and hopefully I'll be seeing you all in the next one. Take care out there.